on a 1998 4.6 Mercury Grand Marquis LS. It's a great grandpa car. Those are grandpa cars. And those engines could run frickin' forever. You know, on the highway, they weren't that bad. You could get 20-something miles a gallon if you drove conservatively. Gas hoggy in town, but, you know, I got old guys that still drive around. Every once in a while, I get some hipster that they like them, and so they buy a used one and have me fix it up, and they drive around in them. And they like the idea of driving around a grandpa car, because hipsters like doing weird stuff. So, you know, if it was taken care of, it's old now, but they could still last, and parts are readily available. It's not like you can't get parts.
Beat this 99 Mercury Grand Marquis. Now, a customer of mine just bought this thing from the original little old lady owner, and it's only got 55,000 miles on it. Look, still looks as sharp as it did the day it was made. Now we check on the hood. It's got the big, old, dependable V8 engine. This particular one's a 4.6, extremely strong engine. Big engine, you'd think it'd be a big gas hog, but these things really weren't. This thing gets about 17 in town, and it gets a whopping 28 on the highway because the way they're set up, the RPMs are pretty low when you're going 60 miles an hour. It's set up for cruising. You could drive these things all day long. And check the inside. Still in immaculate shape, and it's got semi-bucket seats. It's not the old bench seats like they had when I was a kid. No, the back's a little more couchy, but you can see, man, there's some serious legroom in this thing. And this one's unique because it's got the digital dash. It's still working perfectly fine, too. Of course, it has power everything. Radio's got a lot of set buttons on it for something this old, 1999. It's pretty well set up, and look, the wood dash is still in good shape. Tons of headroom for you big people. Look, I still got a whole bunch of room before my head hits it. Check out the back seat. A lot of leg room in these things. Close the door. Nice solid door too. Hey, there's a lot of room inside this thing. It is not small. And of course the trunk, it is gigantic. It just goes and goes and goes. And check out the original wheels. 21 years old. Man, they're still shining. Look at that. It's amazing. Let's just say they don't make them like they used to. I see modern cars, they're 3 years old, and the alloy wheels are already pitting. They made things well back in the day. And if you do need to fix things, look at the working room. You never see that anymore. The AC is still blowing ice cold. The power steering's still working. The ABS is still working. They did start to put beauty covers on these things. I don't know why they bothered, but you know, even back in 99. Now with this overbuilt engine and a solid transmission, these things can basically run forever if you take care of them. But this one will start her up. Starts right up. It's only got 55,000 miles on it. Check it out. This baby isn't even broken in yet. See these things with 300,000 miles on it. But it's a 21-year-old car that's only got 55,000 miles on it. Even the rear defroster still works. And check out the digital readout. Not something you need a science degree to operate. Look, you want to check the things, you just push a button and it goes to the different ones. You don't have to think, oh, which button do I push? Now what do I do? Simple to use. As you can see here, I just turned the overdrive off. With the overdrive turned on, he's getting in the high 20s on the highway in this thing. And realize it's a classic rear-wheel drive car. They handle the best. People that are real serious about driving, they almost always want rear-wheel drive car. There's a reason race cars are rear-wheel drive. They just handle better. This thing is the classic rear-wheel drive. I've seen the differential still working fine, even with 300,000 miles on it. Pretty much, you take care of it with normal oil changes and regular maintenance, they can last forever. So let's start it up. Starts right up. Take it for a little spin. Now realize, they are kind of like land yachts. When you drive them, you more or less point and sail. They are a cushy ride, but you know, they're not tight handling. It's an old design. And with that big old V8 engine, I'll wait till these people are out of the way so I don't scare them. You punch it, it gets up and goes. And the ride, hey, it's smooth. Even though it's 21 years old. You hit bumps, all this weight absorbs most of the bumps. And it's not that sloppy when you're cornering. And strangely enough, my customer is a teenager. This is his first car. So, you know, it goes from the old generation to the young generation. And there's a lot of people buying these things now. A lot of younger guys are souping them up. Some of them turn them into lowriders. It's a giant platform. You can do whatever you want with it. Now, odds are you're not going to find too many 21-year-old ones that only have 55,000 miles on it from the original owner. But there are a lot of elderly people that buy these, the Crown Vics. A lot of them don't drive that much anymore. Luckily, had good control. The car's not full of dings. I get quite a few of them come over here that they're still running good, but man, they got a lot of bashes in them from running into stuff in parking lots. But this one's whistle clean. Hard finding one with that kind of low mileage. But even if it had 100,000 miles on it, I've seen these things go over 300,000 miles. You just pay less money, that's all. But if you find a cherry one like this, somebody's asking $5,000, odds are it's going to sell for $5,000. Don't try to argue them down real far and then the next guy comes in with $5,000 and buys it from under you. So really, if you're looking for a family cruiser, or you're like my customer, a teenager just likes old big American cars, you really can't go wrong with one of these, especially with low mileage like this. What are you going to get for $5,000 these days, you know? 1/5 of a car, maybe a new one? You get a big old solid built one. Like I said, look at those wheels. The wheels still are in excellent shape. They used to make them a lot better than they do today, I'll tell you. And classier too, look, chrome, chrome, chrome. Not just mono-painted cars that look like blobs that came out of an injection mold. And yeah, maybe chrome doesn't get you home, but hey, it sure gives off a good look, even on a 21-year-old. The burning question here is, can you get a car for $200? Well, this guy did, and it's a Grand Marquis. And not only is it a Grand Marquis, it's the ultimate edition Grand Marquis. And the interesting part of the story is this. Basically, he paid $200 because the guy had new tires, so he basically paid for the tires. The previous owner was going to donate the car. He said, no, I got a 2-year-old kid. This is a safe car. I'll give you $200 for it. Now, yes, right after he bought it, he had to put an alternator and a battery in it, but really, these V8 Ford engines can last forever. He bought it with 140. And now it has 176,000 miles on it. It even came with the obligatory Little Trees air freshener. Armrest is worse for wear, but the leather in the back's still in really good shape. And as everyone knows, they got the monster trunk in these things. You can fit lots of things inside here. Back in the day when all cars had full-size spares and not those stupid run-flat tires that make noise, or the baby spare tires, or even worse, the cheaply made modern cars that don't even have spare tires. They're dependable. You get a flat, you put it on, away you go. You don't have to worry about, oh, I got the skinny little tire and I can't drive right now. No, bring back the olden days. And you might say, what, a gas hog? Hey, this thing gets 22 miles a gallon on the highway. Now, the safety factor was a big reason he bought this car for a whopping $200. Got the rear-facing child seat. This thing is safe because it's big and heavy, and yes, it's from Massachusetts, so it's got the rust that people have covered up. Well, you're going to expect that. Now, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. $200 isn't much for a car, but if you're looking at one, what you really care about is the frame. See how solid that frame is? We don't care that the fender has a little rot in it. The frame is still solid. These Panther bodies, they are solid bodies that can run a really long time. That's the difference between these old cars and the new cars. The new cars, almost every single one of them, is unibody. The body, the frame's all one piece. When it starts to rot, goodbye car. And of course, they're made thinner and cheaper. Unibody, it's one of the reasons they do it. Costs less to make them. They weigh less, they get better gas mileage. But really, you know, 23 miles a gallon on the highway, this isn't that bad. And it won't rot away. Even if some of the body parts rot, the frame is still there. When the body parts rot in the unibody, the whole thing starts rotting. You could say goodbye car. But not really, you might say, how good is a $200 car gonna run? Well, let's find out. Hey, Mark, it's that go. Well, to begin with, this thing is about 100 times quieter than that brand new Fiat engine I filmed the other day. It may have all that mileage, but these V8 engines, they can run forever. Now, granted, it's a Ford, so the AC doesn't work anymore, but then again, this is Massachusetts. But the heater works. Puts out a lot of heat. Feels like a bonfire in one of these. We got a little noise here, though. Let's see if we can figure it out. Just realize it's a Ford, so let's jack it up. We'll see if the frame's rotten now. Doesn't appear to be bending. Now, it doesn't like the noise, but there's nothing physically worn. Here's what's happening. It's just an old car. And when you look in here, as you can see here when I zoom in, you can see the rubber bushings are kind of rotten. That's what happens. When these things age, bushings here, they're going to rot a little bit. It doesn't have any play, but as I said a million times when I was a young mechanic, had grease fittings, you'd grease them now. The rubber bushings on metal, as they get old, the rubber gets corroded and it will creak. You could spray a bunch of WD-40 on them all. I like that AT205 reseal because it rejuvenates rubber, but it's kind of hard to find. So you might try WD-40 and you'll find the noise will go away for quite some time. And when it comes back, just spray it again. And interestingly enough, the lower ball joint has been replaced and it's got a grease fitting. So the next time he changes oil, you can pull the wheel off and you can put some grease in off and that'll make the noise go away too. It doesn't have any play, so it's not dangerous. Now generally you gotta wait quite some time, but check it out. A little bit still, but starting to work its way in. And that particular noise might even be the sway bar. They've got bushings, you can unbolt them, put grease in and put them back on. There's nothing structurally wrong. Even the door. Hey, that tells you solid. Old car, bud? Hey, smooth. Even on these bumpy Rhode Island roads, as old as it is, this thing still rides pretty smooth. And when you step on the gas, hey, you hear that V8 engine? It may be old, but it's still moving. And one advantage of this baby is it's got nice clearance. A gigantic lump at the end of the street, it just flew over. It didn't do anything. Got enough clearance, got a decent suspension system. You don't have to worry about dragging the bottom of your car in those stupid speed bumps. So really, $200 for a car that runs this good? Maybe you should do like the owner of this car did. Guy was looking at how to donate a car. And he said, hey, I'll buy it. I'll fix it up and keep it going. There's nothing wrong with doing that if you pick the right vehicle that isn't rotten. I'm sure the fender's been whacked, but I mean, you can get it fixed and repainted if you really want to. You can just leave it the way it is. Over 20 miles a gallon on the highway, a smooth ride, safe for his young child. You can't beat that. Plus, you get cheap insurance on these things. It's an older car, and the insurance companies know they're safe. They have good safety records. New enough, it's got airbags on it. You can save a lot of money on insurance, too. So all hail the $200 car. For everyone else who's looking for a car that might last quite some time, for a little bit of money, it's not as bad as you think. Coronavirus has not taken over the world. There are still plenty of deals out there if you spend time and look like he did. And yeah, he had to put an alternator and battery in it. Big deal. It already came with 4 new vehicle that can last 300,000 miles or more is the grandpa's car. The old Crown Victoria. Yeah, they don't make them anymore, but they're simple old school technology. Pushrod V8s. Body on an actual frame. Those things can last a long time. And of course, in this respect, the Lincoln Town Car and the Mercury Grand Marquis, they can last a really long time if you take minimum care of them. That's why when they still made them, you'd see the Crown Vics being used for police cars. They were solid, basic vehicles with frames. They could last a really long time, and if you didn't mind the relatively poor stop and go gas mileage, they were okay on the highway for gas mileage.